Thank you both for joining us. We're going to start off with just a really quick round of introductions. I do think most of us know each other. Andy, I don't know if we've ever met in person, so maybe I'll do that for me in that purpose. But just about a bit about where you're joining from. Name of your organizations or ranch is always a good one, and why you're invested in regenerative or ranching. So I can start us off and then I'll just go across the screen here. My name's Coco. I work with Roots of Change and I'm a project manager started with my master's doing a project related to our Northern California meat work. And that's what got me into regenerative ranching as a topic. And now doing a bit of our infrastructure or leading our infrastructure mapping and our resilience hub work. So Doris, I'll pass to you and I'll just call out names as we go across.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you, Andy. I know we've had some email correspondence. I'm glad you made it. Um, my name is Doris Meyer. I'm with Roots of Change. I do mainly communications, event organization, and other sort of operational tasks. And why did I get involved in the regenerative movement? That has to do with just wanting to do the right things and heal the world and heal everything around us. And so, yeah, very proud of our work we're doing and, um, looking forward to new initiatives that we're going to be discussing. We have Melanie joining.
I go next, Coco.
Yep.
Yep, I'll pass it to Matthew. Exactly.
So Andy and Vince, we may have been on a Zoom before, but I think otherwise you may not have met me. So Matthew Marsom, I'm the policy advisor at Roots of Change. I've worked with Rock in a different capacity, though, for 15 years or so. So I provide support on state and federal policy issues, which we'll hopefully get a chance to talk about today as we think about some of our 2026 priorities. But I come from a family that's been farming primarily in the UK, but now my sister is still raising, and my brother-in-law raised cattle in New Zealand. So come from a family with ranching connections. And yeah, so that's with me, and I'll pass next to Courtney.
Hi, everybody. I think I know everyone on the call, but I'll introduce myself nonetheless. Courtney Riggle. I work with a nonprofit organization called IC Foods, which I'll give you a cameo on very quickly. But personally, I grew up on a ranching background in Eastern Washington State and have kind of been working in sustainable agricultural space for the last 15 or 20 years, and particularly have been kind of steeped in our kind of Northern California meat supply chain work the last few years. As part of IC Foods, which is an organization that is working to provide kind of technical support to make local food systems work better and also all sorts of kind of better information and connectivity across food science, food, nutrition, health outcomes. So, Michael, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Michael Dimmick, Executive Director, Roots of Change. Really happy to be with you all. It's been a while since we've connected like this, and I think we have a lot to share and hope to hear a lot from you. So I'll pass it back to you, Coco, for whoever you want.
Great. Andy, you want to go next?
Sure, yeah, thank you so much. My name is Andy Lucas. We're a small consulting firm based in Lake County called Community Development Services. And today I'm here representing the Colusa USDA CDFA meat processing facility that's being currently built on the Colusa Industrial Park in Colusa County. So it's part of as part of a We Prosper Together California Jobs First grant, we were able to access about $800,000 for assistance in completing phase one of the facility, which is the slaughterhouse. Essentially, it's about a 3,600 square foot slaughterhouse that includes 1,000 square foot of cold storage. So we wrote the grant. We've worked in Colusa with the developer, Colusa Industrial Properties, for many years. And our role also through the grant is to outreach and engage with disinvested communities as part of the California Jobs First funding. So we have targeted outreach planned through the grant period, which ends September 2026, for Muslim, Sikh, Latinx, and Hmong communities. And the grant region is 8 counties that includes Colusa, Sacramento, Yolo, Yuba, El Dorado, Nevada, and I know I'm missing one or two in there, but it's under the We Prosper Together region, so it's California state grant funds. Our role is to engage these disinvested communities and then help inform the future planning of the facility to meet culturally adherent meat processing needs of those communities. So my and I also want to thank Courtney and her team. They provided a letter of support at the 11th hour for our grant application, which was under the gun back in June. And I really want to thank all of you folks for your work. The white paper that was done, I think, in 2021, the new era in meat processing, was really beneficial to our grant application with the state. And I was just on a listening session recently regarding the USDA potentially bringing back the meat processors expansion program in early 2026. So our hope is to go after a little bit more of that funding for obviously the kind of the next phase of the facility. So I'll leave it there. I'll do my best to answer questions and give more information. And thanks again, Courtney, for the invitation.
Yeah, and we're excited. You said you were hoping to open up in early 2026. Is that correct?
Yeah, they've got the CDFA approvals. So now what's happening is the tenant business, which the gentleman's name is Brent Nobles, he's run a mobile slaughter business for about 5 years, serving counties down to Marin, up north to Humboldt and Eureka counties. So he's going to be transitioning that mobile business to the brick and mortar slaughter facility. So he's got existing clientele, and those folks are going to be able to access the facility. I don't know if that answered your question or not, but the facility, it's been several years in the process. We tried to go after those first rounds during the pandemic on those meat processing grants, but the infrastructure was there at the Colusa Industrial Properties, wastewater, and so on. So that really helped with, mitigating a lot of the cost for the build out of this facility.
Yeah, that's a big piece.
Yeah. We're gonna round out introductions. Regina, you're next.
Hi, I'm Regina Hanna, reporting to you from up here at the top of the state in Etna, California. I run a herd of belted Galways up here, and I do direct-to-consumer beef. And then I'm expanding my herd to also sell bred heifers to new and beginning farm hobbyists who want to get into the breed.
Vince, we'll pass to you.
Hi guys, Vince Trotter here. Again, apologies for being off camera. It's just about the clearest, nicest day we've had, and for whatever reason, our microwave tower on the mountain is down, or wants to go down. So, I'm calling you from the UC Cooperative Extension office in Marin County, or at least that's where I work as our Sustainable Agriculture Coordinator and Agricultural Ombuds. And I work with farmers and ranchers on new enterprises, new practices, and sort of specialize in helping folks understand and navigate the regulatory realm, permits, licenses, any form of bureaucracy. I try to show up for our producers. And so my interest in the sort of regenerative ranching community is, I'm pretty straightforward. They're a sizable portion of the folks that I work with through Extension. Marin County is first and foremost livestock. It's the largest segment of our agricultural industry here in the county, and the landscape and the topography is definitely suited to grazing. So I work with lots of ranchers of different scales and different practices. And that's me. Thanks, guys.
Great. And Melanie.
Hi, Melanie Wong, co-director of California Food Policy Council. I apologize for being off camera. As you can hear, I'm like getting over bronchitis and I'm in my bathrobe, so you don't need to be subjected to that. But um, I'm happy to join you today. I've been sort of drifting in and out as far as your work, but have tried to stay in touch with it. Um, Mostly because we have from a statewide basis, and then also that our California Jobs First region, which is the Central Coast, has some beef projects potentially. And we were not within the region that you were looking at. What's interesting is that with California Jobs First, and we just got the word yesterday, we've been green lighted to go forward with our blue economy proposal. As I was talking to people in other parts of the state about doing a statewide proposal for blue economy for seafood, et cetera, people up on the North Coast, they wanted to talk to me because of beef. We haven't had that beef discussion yet, but I felt like I needed to get prepared for that. So that's part of why I'm here as well. So it's all part of the larger food system, and we're trying to stay together and avoid duplication and use our resources as best we can.
Absolutely. Well, thank you to you all for joining us. So today's purpose of this listening session is an opportunity. We really wanted to listen and learn from both regenerative producers and then people who are allies and advocates within the space, to understand what your priorities and challenges are or have been last year, and what some of those are like really anticipated looking forward as well, to figure out how we as Roots of Change can best support you all in 2026 and beyond, as we're looking for our future work as well and what direction we're going to go. So that's some of the framing of what we're going to do today or talk about today. But I'm going to actually pass it over to Michael, and he's going to give us just a brief overview of ROC and how we've worked in regenerative ranching and how that's been very central to our work in the last 6 years.
Yeah, I think everybody, I mean, this crew is really well informed. I mean, Courtney was a co-author of that white paper. Vince was our most intelligent and nuanced critic in the positive sense, to help critique the paper, to help it improve it. And we've had a long-term relationship with Melanie and Regina in different realms, and Regina has been to I think almost all of our events. I think the only one she missed was Terra Madre, because she was taking her, I think, traveling, or you were in Europe or taking your kids to see colleges or something. I can't remember, but it was a bummer. Yeah, you weren't there. We missed
I was taking
you.
my firstborn to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo.
That's it. That's it. Well, good though. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. She's done very well. Congratulations on that. I met her a couple times. She's a great kid. So congratulations. So, yeah, so we've done a lot in this space, and we're going to continue to do a lot in this space, and a lot of it depends on the specifics of what we're going to do in the years ahead. Depends upon what we're hearing from you all. Just to recap, we did the white paper, and then we did the long-term 3-year project where we helped build markets. That's still ongoing. University of California is slowly buying more and more meat for the different campuses, so that's still in play. The GRASS project, which actually Regina, I think, received part of a grant before it got doged, may come back to life. And that would be really interesting if it did, and it'd probably provide a lot more money to producers than the previous one, because of the new emphasis on getting the money to producers. So that might be another opportunity coming up over the next year. As you all know, we did the Terra Madre event. 160,000 people came. We talked to thousands and did a lot of really good promotional work there. And now we're in the design phase for something in Colorado, an similar event, and then we'd like to do something in LA this year. So yeah, we have a lot in our minds. Matthew's got some stuff he'll talk about, I think, later, what he's thinking about and working on at the state level. So with that, I'll hand it back to you, Coco.
Can I mention, Coco, can I mention a couple of things now? Because yeah. So I wanted to highlight a couple of things, and then I wanted to make sure, Coco, when I finished, if you could talk about the screening.
Yep, I will.
Okay, perfect. So building off what Michael said and the success of Terra Madre, I want to highlight a couple of things that we're thinking about. One is last year Roots of Change initiated a budget request. We were asking for a modest amount, $5 million, that we could have as an investment to support the university systems in California and the med centers to purchase regenerative meat from California producers for the med centers and for the university campuses. We know that the students want to buy California regenerative beef. We started that, but with the budget situation, unfortunately, we did not get traction in 2025, and we are still hoping that we could at least continue the conversation with leadership about that. I think the reality with the state budget situation, there's going to be $16 billion deficit or thereabouts, as well as what's happening at the federal level. I think the chances of getting traction on that this year are low, but we think it's an important conversation to have. Tied to that, we're thinking about doing Michael mentioned an event in LA that would be a tasting event and the Colorado event, but we're also thinking about maybe an event focused on lamb specifically at the Capitol in the spring. We don't. I don't think I'm looking around the room. I don't think we have any lamb producers on the call here today, but folks who may work with them. But if you have thoughts about that, it would be both a tasting for policy staff and then a policy conversation. And I'd like to see if we can get a herd grazing on the Capitol lawn, but the state parks might have something to say about that. But anyway, that's my plan. And we'll talk in a moment about the campaign. I don't know if Michael, you want to say anything about the fact that we're in the planning stages for launching in 26 Vote for Your Food, which is Roots of Change campaign that would be really trying to bring together and end the divide between rural and urban communities, because we think there's such an important interdependence between those communities, but are being driven apart. So I don't know, Michael, if you want to say more to that. Otherwise, I'll stop and hand over to Coco.
Anything else, Michael?
Well, I'll just say that, this comes out of our belief that the food system is a place to unify people across all beliefs and political perspectives. We're hearing it from what you would call traditional liberals and traditional conservatives and ranching communities, that there's a lot of connections and things that they hold in common. And we want to highlight that. And we want to give people ways to do things that place food on the agenda as a place to kind of, overcome the polarization that we feel is not healthy for the country and certainly not healthy for food producers and for communities that want to get healthy food. So we're working on that. You're going to learn a lot more about it in the months ahead. And maybe we'll be able to do some things in your communities to bring different perspectives together and see what we can do to make the country more unified. So I'll hand it to you, Coco.
Okay, so for something really concrete that also has a really quick turnaround, we received a request last week from some filmmakers who are looking for feedback on their film that they created. It's called A World Without Cows. This is an opportunity. This is a film that's really focused on kind of exploring what are those edge cases? What would the world look like as a world without cows? But what they're requesting, this is not a public film yet. It's still under review. They're still doing editing. What they're requesting is feedback from different members of the community who are interested in food, invested in the environment, who are ranchers themselves, to watch it and provide feedback on anything that they see is could be improved, is really cool within the film, maybe doesn't tell the story that as you might have wanted to tell it. So you're going to receive an email from us following this meeting that has the film instructions. If you're interested in doing that, it's an 85-minute screening. You're welcome to watch it in your own time, but then there's a survey that does have to be completed before Monday because they're doing a quick turnaround to make sure that those recommendations can go to the editing team rather quickly. So we heard from it pretty last minute and we want to get it in front of you as soon as possible. So that'll be something that's coming. It's I think 3 of us have watched it now. It's interesting. It has definitely points of feedback to give as well. And so, this is, I think, a cool opportunity. So stay tuned.
Yeah, I'll just say that
Oh,
Don't
Michael, you just
repeat it,
muted
though.
yourself.
we only got the details on this yesterday, so that's
Yeah.
why it's like, God, but they are in the midst of editing and you could have an impact. And the concept or the idea of a world without cows is a really compelling framing that I think is important for us all to think about, because there's a lot of people saying that's what needs to happen. And that's why they use that framing for this film, for us to, for people to explore what that would really mean, what the implications of that would be. So your feedback could be very important for reshaping this film.
And just to confirm, this would be you could watch it in your own time, 85 minutes, as Coco said. We'll give you the login details, and then there's just an online survey once you've watched it. And I think we said Coco by midnight on Monday. Is that right?
Midnight on Monday,
Yeah, it has to be in before the end of the day, Monday.
Coco, do you happen to know the platform? Like, is it on a Vimeo or?
It's
The website.
that's a good question. It's more official than that, but it's available online. Like you have to log in. We'll send you a login code and everything.
It's not Vimeo. It's the producers of the film created a platform, and they're holding it very tightly. They're only letting a few select people to
Sure.
see it, and you're among those. So it's a proprietary platform.
Got it. Got it. That will also give me a little insight on what kind of bandwidth I need to go seek out.
Mm.
Oh,
It looks, yeah. I just looked at it. It looks like they're using a player inside but called Bright Cove is the player embedded within their website. So you go to the website when you get the link from Doris, and then it's in their website, which is, you'll get. So it's with embedded, but it looks like the player is Bright Cove, and it is, and it's buffered, so it's not like you download it and then watch it. So you'll have to have, yeah, enough to buffer. Talking about bandwidth. Regina.
I recognize that this has just come to you guys, but is your sense from either what you've seen of the footage or your interactions with the filmmakers that this is a genuine open dialogue? Is this we're just asking questions kind of thing where ultimately any comments could potentially be taken out of context? What is your sense of any like larger aim from this project?
I
That's
think
yeah, go ahead. Well,
I think that I mean, I've watched the film. I thought there were some really interesting and good parts, and some parts that from my perspective, need improvement. I think they're really trying to show the complexity of the debate, the opportunity that good and livestock production offers to the world. I think they also show it's got global perspective, so it has parts about India and Africa and Brazil as well as the United States. So it's a very broad picture in 85 minutes with a lot of UC Davis, very well known people are speaking. People from South Africa, from Australia. I mean, it's got a lot of interesting perspectives. So I think it's legitimate.
I can share the questionnaire right now if you want to take a look before even seeing the movie to decide if, it's worth your while. Would that be okay to share the form?
Yeah, I mean, share it. We'll send it out in the email, Doris, so that we don't.
Yeah, we'll send it out in the email anyway. Yeah.
Vince, so I think also a piece that you asked is whether it's going to be taken out of context. No, the intention with the feedback is not that feedback, like it's not like you're going to be quoted or anything in the film. It's they recognize that this movie is going to have impact because of the topic, and they want to make sure that they're, providing the story that is going to be effective. And so that's the context that they gave us. And so it's they're definitely putting in extra work to receive feedback instead of just like publishing this movie as it is. So it does seem to me that they'll like take that feedback seriously, but not that they're like taking things out of context, for example.
They're not going to use you for their purposes.
Yeah, I
Other
think the
than
survey is even
keeping-
anonymous. I think it's
Yeah.
actually an anonymous survey. So yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, thank you for that extra context.
Okay, so now for the meat of our conversation here. We track the news. We work in policy at Rock, obviously, and as many of you do, I'm sure as well, like track what's going on and the different updates. And this conversation that we wanted to have really came out of, look, we're launching this Vote for Your Food campaign. It's this desire to respond to some of the realities of what we see of a divide within our nation, but also it's a desire to see, honestly, a response from when the Trump administration made a statement about Argentinian beef, and that we started having a conversation of what really are you all discussing and how is that impacting you. And so we'd like to open the ground to just listen, or the floor, I should say, to listen about what are the biggest challenges that you are currently facing with regenerative ranching or hearing from regenerative ranchers in California. And what are those pressures that you're experiencing? We're trying to better understand really the reality that is being faced, especially as we move forward with different meat events that we're hoping will be ultimately supportive.
Regina, you want to go first? Great.
Sure. And this is something that has really grown acute for us since this summer. And then there was a huge water board meeting that we had about a month ago. So in dealing with the State Water Board of California, as you know, one size does not fit all. And our dilemma is, Scott Valley is not huge. And so we know fellow ranchers, and on the bright side, this has been one of the themes that both the far left and the far right have been working together, not only through Instagram reels and showcasing how information is gathered, but just people coming together to try to come up with a plan on how to show the water board that our information that we're gathering, we also work with UC Ag Extension, we've got scientists all over our field. We shuttle them all over to gather alfalfa, soil health, water quality studies. And, we're doing well. We haven't been in a drought. Our snowpack has been awesome. But with the imposed 30% water reduction that we had to deal with last summer, and then paying $10,000 to install water meters that we then have to track. And then I had to teach my husband how to set up a spreadsheet to enter these numbers every week. And then he submits it. And somehow they aggregate all this data into some kind of a format that they're extracting information from, which I don't think they're doing very accurately, because I know some people have to write it down on a piece of paper and they send that in as a picture, and that's their data. But now they are going to also implement costs for us to pump water from our own wells so we put up alfalfa and some grass, but mostly alfalfa, and then we do some wheat. And we usually get 3 cuttings of hay each season. It's a very small growing season. And so now they're going to charge us, that's the plan, is also to charge us to pump our own water, to water our fields, to water our stock tanks, to use water. And then also with the cost of electricity to pump is going to be, for some people, it might even be cost prohibitive. We pay already a ton of money for irrigation costs to run our pivots. We have very efficient water pivots. We're doing all the work. We have been doing it. We have, data from past 5-10 years, good snowpack counts. And so all of this work that we're doing, it almost seems like it's kind of futile because, I try not to get too much into the politics of it all, but I think a lot of it is just the lack of understanding of ranching practices up here, and people not taking the time to really spend time here to, see the practices. And, if we have all of these partnerships with, water studies and so forth, if we're doing all this work, I can't imagine how that's going to work out for other people that are kind of fractioned, or maybe they don't have um, some of the socioeconomic things that have helped us. One of our biggest water advocates, I mean, she's an environmental scientist. I think she was, at Cal. She did her studies at Cal, and she is also a private business owner. They own the largest tree reforestation on the West Coast, Cal Forest. So, we have big dogs with this. And if we can't even make a dent in policy or in how things are studied or evaluated, I don't know. We're scratching our heads, and then also looking at possibilities of what else do we do that maybe doesn't use water or a lot of water, or and part of regenerative ranching is taking care of your fields, and you do water to help with the water table, and to also you don't have to use as many inputs if you keep things watered well, to evade certain kinds of weeds and noxious plants that that are unhealthy, not only to your soil and your land quality, but also to your animals. And so if we we're still trying to figure that all out, but it's kind of doom and gloom as far as like the state level. We don't have a lot of row crop people here, so a lot of the tariff implications have affected us with the cost of inputs and machinery and so forth, but not like the folks that we see in the Midwest that are big soybean folks. And our beef prices have been good as far as beef going to auction, and they have been selling well. So no one's excited about the great deal that Argentina is going to get, aside from the ninth or 10th like economic bailout they just got from the United States. But I better shut up now.
Can I ask a question?
Well, so let me just
Go ahead,
okay,
Michael.
go ahead.
Well, mine's a very quick question. You said the far left and the far right are working together, but was that against what you're trying to do or for? Can you just
No.
say a little bit more? That's in support of what you're.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what she said. Yeah.
That's what I
It's-
understood, but I wanted to confirm that.
Yeah, no, it's I have one of the prominent neighbors, I have a giant Trump sign on the front lawn. And they've been working with another neighbor who has a giant Biden sign on her front lawn. And socially they haven't always agreed on things, but this has been one thing that if I had more time, I would love to do a documentary just featuring how these two factions have been working together to try to accomplish something that is not only vital to a lot of livelihoods here, but also it's just been part of tradition, and the fabric of the whole North State area. So
it sounds like this water issue is the big issue. Can you just, before we move on to hear from other folks, because we only have a limited amount of time today, which of the water districts or the water boards is this?
I can
It's not
get
the North
name.
Coast. Yeah, just send me the name of the water board you're dealing with, and then yeah, we'll look into this just to see what the possibilities are. Go ahead, Vince.
Well, I just wanted to jump in because Regina's talking about, I think at least part of what she's talking about is an issue that I hear from ranchers in Marin County as well, and it's more an issue of the division of water rights. So not a regional water board issue, but a statewide issue related to how water rights are administered and how the fees that are charged, but perhaps even more so the requirements around monitoring diversions and reporting data on those diversions. I think there's a widespread frustration as the state makes more and more demands on folks that divert water, whether that's for livestock or for crop production. They make more and more demands on the reporting and the data collection. It becomes burdensome, but there's a real disconnect in terms of why is this even important? How is this helping anyone? I mean, I hear Regina saying that they've invested a lot of effort into water quality and water conservation and increasing their soil water holding capacity, and yet their access to water gets more and more difficult. And I think folks here see the same thing, that there's not a clear understanding of how is any of this helping agricultural producers, or really anyone for that matter.
Yeah, good. Okay, thank you. Courtney.
Yeah, kind of on the same vein, back on the water issue. The first thing that pops into my head, just from my IC Foods perspective, is if data collection is a big pain in the butt, then we can probably do something to make it work better. And then you're saying you don't even know how they use it because it doesn't seem to collate in any useful way. So that's just kind of a background, like as Vince was saying, what's the purpose of this data and why is it being collected? And can we make this a lot more painless? That's kind of just the nuts and bolts data piece. But the part I heard from Regina also was just that it sounds like you're now getting charged for a resource that you think you already own. And so that's a whole nother twist on the whole management of the resource and how that's plays out with groundwater throughout the state. Like obviously up in the mountains, it's different than down in the valley, but if they're shoving it all into the same policy, that's hard, right? And so I think, especially from the Rock perspective, like digging into how those groundwater use decisions are made and at what level could be really important.
Yeah, thanks.
So I want to open it to just other people. Feel free to chime in as well. Of again, what are the biggest challenges that you or ranchers are facing as regenerative ranchers in California right now, what you're hearing. But I also want to open it to if there's certain policy. We talked about here are some policy systems that are either helping or getting in the way of what you'd like to be doing, or what you wish decision makers and the public understood about your work. Like what are the barriers that you're feeling?
Well, let's let Shanae Risby into the call because she joined us. Shanae, just wanted to welcome you from
Hi,
Audubon.
everybody. Hey, sorry, I'm late. I was in another meeting before here.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you know everyone, Sinead? Maybe you could just say for those who don't know you, just let them know who you are and what you do at Audubon.
Yes, so my name is Shanae. I am the Senior Outreach Coordinator with Audubon's Conservation Ranching Program. So we work with ranchers across the state and nationally to certify their land under our certification program. In return, ranchers, we help them implement bird-friendly practices on their property. And then they're able to use that seal on their packaging to let consumers know that they're doing right by the land and doing right by birds. So I kind of help with the messaging of our certification program. And then I run like events and like ranch tours, and help our ranchers stay kind of connected to each other. So that's kind of what my role is. And
Right.
yes.
Good to have you. So you'll pick up what's going on here. We're getting feedback from folks on what they're facing.
Okay.
Vince,
Andy,
you got
maybe-
anything else?
I'll say.
I mean, I have a list.
Just hear it.
Well, so just I'll run through them real briefly. These are some challenges / opportunities that are on my radar, and could be interesting areas for further work. I mean, this one is very closely tied to the regenerative industry and just the idea of incentivizing or monetizing ecosystem services. In Marin County, our ag commissioner recently commissioned a study looking at the value of the ag industry, all of its like secondary and tertiary impacts to the economy. And then beside it, they put a dollar range to the ecosystem services provided by the agricultural industry. And we figured that if I think it was the lowest estimate of the ecosystem services, if ranchers received 2% of that lowest number, it would double farm gate income for the entire county. It's just I think this idea that the regenerative practices, the work of building, sustainability into the operation carries a brand forward some ways, but there could be a lot more monetization that would reward and incentivize the continued work, because ultimately they got to stay alive economically. So that's one, ecosystem services and the incentives, not just to implement practices, but then to receive payment on the other side. Insurance is a big issue. The ability to get commercial policies on ranches, given the wildfire classifications and the kind of failure of the statewide insurance of last resort to be an option, is pretty crazy for folks here. I had a session with producers from all parts of the industry, not just livestock. And something that came up a lot was interest in programs, statewide efforts to organize pools for access to healthcare and other benefits that could then be passed on to workers and that kind of thing. Individual benefit programs are just really hard for folks to afford and access, but in pooling things, maybe there's a way for both owners and their employees to benefit. And then just the last thing that's been on my radar is mental health. All of the challenges, economic, environmental, they have a silent toll that doesn't get talked about in a lot of webinars and Farm Bureau meetings, but I think it's something that needs more attention. And California is getting just a tiny amount of funds from the feds to work on mental health for the agricultural community, even though the suicide rate among farmers and ranchers is 3 times that of the rest of the population. California has not joined in the nationwide helpline, sort of agri-stress helpline, which is dedicated for producers providing not just crisis health, but mental health in general. California hasn't joined that. So I think there's opportunities for us as a state to put some attention on that. And I'll stop there.
Well, can I ask a follow-up on that last point? So there's a federal program then that has an agri-stress line. You're saying that CDFA or the administration, the Newsom administration, has refused not to because of their problems with the Trump administration? Is that what's behind it?
No, it predates this administration. It's a resource that I think has been federalized more recently, or has received more federal funding more recently, but it has always been kind of a piecemeal state by state resource. And I think right now maybe 10 or 12 states participate in it. And California is not one of them. But
Okay,
it certainly
good.
could. And I don't know all the reasons why it's not.
Was that founded by Farm Bureau, Federal Farm Bureau? Do you know? Because I know
No.
they talk about this issue a lot, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, it was not established by Farm Bureau. I don't know where the original seed for it was, but I'm pretty certain it wasn't Farm Bureau.
Okay, we'll look into it. Thanks. The insurance issue is a big one, and I can understand. And then the incentives. Yeah, I mean, did you watch the press conference that was given yesterday by Rollins, uh, RFK, and Dr. Oz?
No,
Interesting. They're revamping a lot of the current environmental programs, and they're going to provide huge amount of incentives for regenerative ag, they're saying, through NRCS. Um, so it'll be interesting to see what emerges from that. But going back to what Regina said, if we're going to impose these costs on ranchers and agriculturalists for their water, increasing costs for water, um, there one of the strong arguments for incentives like you're describing is to help offset those additional costs, and so that at least that it's not economically as stressful. The question is, how do you ensure that the water supplies that are needed can be maintained? And the only way to do that, if they're going to cut people's allocations, is to have a larger pool that they're pulling from, right? And that means capturing more water somehow. So the incentive should be paying people to capture more water in different ways, if that's what's going to be the future approach. Anything else from anybody?
Andy, do you want to go next? If you,
Yeah, thanks, Matthew. Thanks, everybody. I, as far as the topics for this meeting, I would just say I would defer to the ranchers, the producers, all the folks that are on the call, because as I stated, part of our work is really to try and meet the needs and the demands for these disinvested communities. But there's also a crossover for all the producers that are struggling right now with just accessibility to facilities, slaughter or processing. I'll just quickly say that we will be hosting tours of the facility in Colusa every month. If anybody's interested, and if you have contacts that you want to send my way, not sure how the communication chain will work with everybody on the meeting, but I just want to offer up the invitation for anybody that may want to come and meet the design team. Dan Seinert, who ran the UC Davis Meat Lab, is consulting on the facility design. So there's a pretty good team that's been assembled, and we of course want to do all that we can to try to alleviate some of the needs for the producers, and this is obviously just one aspect of it. But you all are working on, the policy and the needs, and I would just advocate for hopefully more future, grant funding for the smaller producers, the value add businesses, as well as these processors. So I'll just leave it there. Thank you again for the opportunity.
I think one thing that would be great, Andy, is if you could connect with Doris with information around the tours, dates, or ways for people
I can put
to
it in
arrange
the
that.
newsletter.
Yeah, because we can put it in our blast. So that's good.
Andy and I are already connected, so
Okay, good.
that channel is open.
Yes, thank you.
Andy, I know the folks up in the North Coast. I talked to Portia Bramble most, but they were looking to get a new processing facility up on the North Coast. Have you been in conversations with them up there and up in I forget the city she's in. Coco, I'll have to remind me.
Arcata.
Yeah.
But they want to
Arcata,
build it in
Eureka, yeah.
Eureka. They want to build in Eureka, yeah.
So just real quickly, yes, we have been in communication. Another part of our role is working with community development block grant funds for business assistance for low, moderate income people. We actually work for the city of Crescent City and have given them our funded grant application, so that, because we mentioned to the city that there was a Hmong group that wanted to purchase a facility using those California Jobs First funds. They were unsuccessful, but we want to share that information. And yeah, our work is basically rural Northern California down to Mono County up to Crescent City. And we see a lot of the same needs. So we're trying to share. We know it's like the Redwood Region Rise.
Yes.
And also for Melanie too, if there's anything, I can share our application if you like for the coastal region under the California Jobs First too. But I also wanted to mention for Regina, know that Modoc County Superior Economic Development was had put out an RFP for developers to look at a facility in Modoc, and we also gave them our successful grant application just for reference. So we kind of work with these different community organizations, nonprofits, and jurisdictions. So we try to share as much as we can to make it easier for folks.
Good.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'm
Shanae.
sure that's an awesome resource for people. It's great that you're sharing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, because that's always a big stumbling block, getting something written. Shanae, you have anything you want to add? What are you hearing from your producers about what they need?
Yeah, I just want to echo everything that Andy and Vince said that I heard since I joined the call. We just had our first ever Rancher Roundup in October where we got not all of them, but most of the ranchers together that are in the program in California. And then we had like an open format session where we had the ranchers kind of speak to us of what they have been facing, and a lot of things that have been coming up is like policy things around funding for like certain like equip grants for like fencing and things like that. And then also the idea of like mental health came up as well, like having more gatherings for ranchers to just get together to talk, to share ideas. Because that's one thing that I felt like everybody left with that day, just a sense of gratitude for everything that different folks are doing to kind of do better for the planet. And then also processing facilities came up a lot because a lot of our ranchers, they spend a lot of time and money shipping their animals from other places that is too far from their house. So that has become like very expensive. And they're trying to figure out a ways to like localize their processing so they don't have to spend as much time and effort when it comes to like shipping animals. Um, yeah, and then also like more access to like lease land, being able to like have land that they can graze outside of their own properties, so they can have like more animals to produce more meat. Is something that also was like brought up during that day.
Great. Shanae, you weren't here when we started, but one thing I wanted to say is that so now we're working on a couple events where you were at Terra Madre, you participated in Terra Madre, you did a great job. So we're gonna do something like that in Colorado in September, it looks like. I mean, sorry, in July or early August, it looks like. We're working on that now. We'd love to have your Audubon folks participate in that if you're interested. And then also we're
Yeah.
thinking about an LA event in May.
Okay, lovely. Yeah, please keep me posted about the Colorado event because that's where the program first started in Colorado. So there's like a bunch of like producers in that area, and we have like a big staff presence too.
Good.
Nobody mentioned predators specifically so far on the call today. There's been obviously continued headlines around predators. Anything wanted to mention anything about that?
Yeah, Regina, you have any wolves yet?
Not yet here, but they've come as close as like Grass Lake, which is towards Butte Valley. And
Okay.
folks have seen them from the highway harassing cattle. I have some dear friends that are in outside of Fall River that run cows for a big family, and they have to put their kids inside now and their pets, which is a real bummer because that's part of the reason why you live out in the country. So, and the other big concern is that, when cattle get harassed by wolves, it's very difficult for them to make a comeback as far as like their nervousness and like being able to keep weight on. Have you ever heard of a red cutter? When you sometimes when you butcher cows, if they're super stressed, they have a lot of that stress cortisol that's running through them, and it can give the beef a real distasteful flavor. I mean, that's one thing I always think about with nervous cows. And so, that's the lasting effect of having like predators around. Your cattle always get really nervous. And I don't know how you, I mean, I don't know how you put cows through therapy, especially when you still have like these kind of predators around. So it's for some parts of our area up here, it's a crisis. And again, maybe it's because the lack of access or like them, they're out sometimes outside of cell phone range. But I can't help but to think of doing a better campaign of filming some of these attacks and, just getting the word out about how this can be detrimental to a community or your neighborhood, if you will. Just the effects of having introduction of predators that haven't been around for a long time.
If you haven't seen it, we should share the link to the podcast we just did from Terra Madre on who's afraid of the big. We're all afraid of the big bad wolf. We should share that with you, Regina, if you didn't listen.
Oh,
to that.
sure.
I can send
Yeah,
it.
we had a
It
really
was in the
good we had a
news.
really good predator panel. Yeah.
It was in the newsletter. I can send it again to you, Regina.
Oh, sure.
I know you're busy. I know you're busy, Regina. You got lots going on.
So we're at 2:02, but Melanie, I wanted to give you an opportunity as well, to jump in with what you're hearing, if anything, or any concerns that you have around regenerative meat ranching.
Okay. I don't actually have much contact with ranchers directly, but I would say that within our 6 county group, which stretches from Santa Cruz down to Ventura County, there is an effort in Lompoc to establish a processing facility there, and then we have some food producers, like for example, artisanal sausage producers, and so they are currently, if they're based in Salinas, they work with processors over in Fresno, the Fresno area, to make their sausages, and I've introduced them to sort of our local butchers, that can do that, but the prices are 3 times the amount that they pay, and it's actually worth it for them to, drive back and forth to Fresno, which is a 3.5 hour trip each way. And when I told them about the possibility of something in Lompoc, which would be both slaughterhouse and processing, they go, "Oh, well, that's 3.5 hours, but that's a much nicer drive. I'd love to do that instead." So I guess that's one piece of live feedback that I have that are looking for. And my question is, well, it requires scale to get to that point where you can compete on price, and and that could take a while to develop, and I don't know, I haven't looked at any of the sort of feasibility studies as far as the local market for these things. But I just wanted to share that I'm seeing it more with the, that kind of a processing step.
Good.
And then Courtney, and thank you for these thoughts. Yeah, that lines up exactly what we're trying to do. Yeah.
Courtney had to jump sadly.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
yeah, but this is good. So, Melanie, we can continue to talk about that Lompoc project and anything else you want to cover. I'd be happy to talk to you about that.
Okay. Yeah, and we are, and as far as, what Courtney had put in here about sort of seafood and meat producers linking up in terms of distribution.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's sort of like, the seafood people in the North Coast, he said, "Oh, well, we need distribution channels." And I'm going, distribution is a very slim margin game. And if you don't have, a large portfolio and an efficient operations, there's just no way that you're going to be able to make a profit on this. And people don't like to hear that. But I think we want to try to put more product through the existing channels. Yeah. And we're trying to find out what's required to do that. Yeah.
Shanae, one last thing that you also missed. We're sending you a link to a film. The filmmakers have approached us because they're in the editing phase and they want feedback to make the arguments of this film ring true for the maximum amount of people, not cause controversy as much as educate and get a dialogue started in the country around the role of cattle in the world. The film is called A World Without Cows. And it's an interesting film. We've watched it, and we're sending it to everyone on this call and the people that signed up for this call and a few others. But that we only had a chance to talk to some people about it yesterday, and so we're sending it out. They need feedback by Monday night. So there's a way you'll get an email with a link to allow you to get onto the film, which is on their own platform, their own website where you can watch it. And if you could watch it between now and Monday and then fill out a form that they have, you can potentially impact the editing of the film to make it a better film.
If you're interested or have time.
If you're interested. You don't have to do it. It's voluntary. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm down. How long is the film?
It's 85 minutes. Yeah, but you know, watch it in your own time anytime this weekend. That's kind of the
It's an
pitch.
18-hour series we're doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
85
So
minutes.
yeah.
I'm down. Yeah, send me the link and I'll watch it and fill out the form.
Yeah, and feel free to. Well, can Shanae include some of her producers? No, we're keeping it small, right? We're asking.
Yeah,
we're
the
not
turnaround
percentage.
is too quick. But
I mean, you could share it with Pelayo if you wanted to.
Okay, I'll let Pelayo know. Go.
yeah. So thank you, everyone. I know that the time always moves quickly, but we have our newsletter and everything, and we're gearing up for a couple of events, and we hear from all of you, of course, looking at just like what policy
Lots of
changes
notes.
are available. I took notes as well. Michael took notes, and also just like how are we designing even the events that we put on and moving forward in a way that supports you all as a very key community that we work with. So